Welcome back to the channel, fellow Crusaders. Jack the Grand Chronicles here with a review of Netflix's Cowboy Bebop series. Before getting there, though, I just wanted to let you know I have a first impressions video I did the other week where I watched the first episode and kind of go over my thoughts about it and where I thought the series might go. I'll have that link below, and as well as a video about getting to 100 subscribers and some giveaway ideas. And so I'll link that down below too, so if you want to check that out, maybe throw out some ideas of what we can do for a giveaway once we pass that 100 threshold, and just kind of since I do mixed content and trying to get some ideas that might work, what might work for a giveaway. So yeah, anyhow, yes, Netflix's Cowboy Bebop series, based on the anime of the same name. This is an anime that is near and dear to my heart. I love it. It's one of my favorites. And it's one that I was very skeptical about being made in general. And this whole process of going up to this production, I've been a little wary of it. And there were a lot of things that kind of tempered that. And that was like the director, Watanabe, being like supposed to give his blessing and all this. I never really went into much detail to know how much they worked on it or were involved in it and what have you, but other things were like specific characters like Ed not being highlighted in trailers and stuff, though being promised or told through articles I did see that, and people commenting in my like trailer reactions, that they were going to be introduced somewhere throughout the series. So that's cool. So that kind of helped a little bit. And actually, when they had the Lost Session released and the final trailer and the intro and stuff, those things seemed to really get me hyped up. I started thinking they're going to do this right. Because it's not going to be necessarily an easy one, but just like most anime adaptations in live action, they seem to not do too well and not follow source material or what have you. Just a conglomerate of different things that just go awry with it, especially with the fan base. So it just never seemed to survive and continue or get high praise. But anyhow, if you're not familiar, Cowboy Bebop is a space western sci-fi action dramedy centered around a group of bounty hunters who basically traverse the galaxy trying to find bounties and not to get rich, but just get by. All the while trying to escape their paths, which eventually catch up with them. So it's kind of like the gist, the little rundown I gave before. And yeah, so my mind goes all over the place. I've sat for a week trying to figure out how to do this, and I'm just going to try not to meander as much. I feel like I could rant a lot. I'm going to keep it spoiler free, give a rating, and then once it gets to the spoilers, I will do a warning so you'll know ahead of time. But just know that in the comments there could potentially be spoilers, and so be mindful of that. And if you are leaving spoilers down below for comments and conversation, just kind of mark them as spoilers so people coming by can avoid them, just to be considerate of one another and everything. So anyhow, yeah, so I will start with what I liked about the series. I liked that they kept the music. That is one of the biggest things. They had the original composer and stuff from the animated series come and work on the Netflix series, and that was a huge plus, and probably what got a lot of people excited about it, because the music is such a big part of Cowboy Bebop. And I really liked the set designs. I liked the special effects, the costumes. There was the issue with Faye and not being as risque or whatever, and fans had issues with that. I was kind of whatever about it, but I didn't mind it. I thought they were pretty on par, and even some of the kind of like more like bit characters were even really good. So, and I liked how they introduced, which I kind of got into in my first impressions, introduced everybody to the world of Cowboy Bebop and some of the main characters, and again the world building and where they were and what was going on and stuff like that. I thought that was really well done, and I personally liked that they used some of the elements from episodes within the animated series, though some of that could have been to a detriment, and that's because of how they have changed and adapted things or reimagined things. And yeah, but the acting as well was good. I thought most all of them were, for what they had, was good. Uh, for what they were given, the acting was fine. The action was fine, and yeah. So those are definitely a handful of things I like. I like the structure of the episodes in terms of like the editing, the pacing was good, and I liked that they kept those kind of elements of the editing and stuff to try to mimic and pay homage to the original animated series. So those are things that I liked a lot. When it comes to the acting and such, that's where I kind of have some problems where, like, my negatives are, while I like that they characters acted the best they could with what they had, the episodes were pulling sometimes from the animated specifically, like sometimes scenes were identical, sometimes dialogue was used. There was a I didn't mention it in my first impressions, but the whole "keep those eyes open" line, I love it. I say it from time and time again, periodically. It just, I don't know, it always stuck with me from Asteroid Blues. That was not used in the first episode, so that bummed me out. But they did use a bit of dialogue that was good in the anime into the Netflix series. But while doing that, I feel like there was like this the pressure of like wanting to do something new and original, and yet keep what they could from the animated series to entice and have familiarity and garnish goodwill with the fans. And what ended up coming from that was just like a conglomeration of just a perversion to me. They had, it was almost as though if anything they could change, or most anything that they could potentially change, whether it was gender, race, power, role, or what have you, or character essence, they decided to either flip or warp. And by that I mean, like, you would have characters who were male, who were female, vice versa. And, so that was one thing. You had people who were, like, role's hard to say. Like, there's a character Mao. It's not a spoiler. It's just, in this, they're more like a like a high level, but not like, in the anime, they're the, like, syndicate boss. In this, they are not. It's somebody named Caliban. And I didn't even know when Mao was introduced. I didn't catch the name. There was a gender swap, which I already knew because I looked up in a movie database back in the production period and stuff. So I knew that there was some of these swaps and changes, but I didn't even know that that was who that character was. And that was like, that's how little I cared at that point when it got to that I just didn't even notice that. But so there were things like that they did that didn't make sense to me. I mean, it's fine because it doesn't matter whether it was male or female or whatever in that regards, but also it's kind of like, why change it? I guess. I don't know. So, but even still, yeah. Then there's the characters, and that is something that rubbed me the wrong way with the first episode that I watched, where I could just get the feeling that the characters weren't the same as they were in the anime. I've seen people say that they were. I guess I don't agree. You got people like Faye, who was like in your face, aggressive and whatever, and that was not how she was in the anime. She was like kind of like snobby and just stuck up and whatever, and caused troubles and whatever. But she wasn't like in your face, F you, da da da. I might swear in this, FYI. But the series isn't really for children anyway, so yeah. But I try to remain family friendly. But yeah, so there was elements of her that were changed, as well as Spike and him, like, I don't even know. Vicious is probably the easiest one because he was the one I was most concerned with. Everybody was worried about the costume of Faye. I was worried about Vicious because Vicious is just a really strong character that I didn't want them to mess up, and I feel like they did. He was kind of like a bumbling, not bumbling. He was more just like a nuisance, whiny, like unable to get approval from his father, just whiny character. Like, he didn't have that just, I mean, his name's Vicious. He just, in the animated series, he was like, he wanted that rise to power or a rise to power, and he took it. He did it. There was no like fumbling around, whatever. It was just, and I know everything's kind of like shortened in the anime and they're only 24 minutes or something like that, but yeah, it was just an element that like this wasn't the same Vicious, but I knew that was probably going to be the case because we didn't get the same Faye, in my opinion. We didn't get the same Jet. Now, acting wise, I think Jet was like the strongest character. Mustafa Shakir, who played him, sounds like dead on, and maybe that's why I like the character so much. He sounded so much like the voice actor for the English dub of the anime, but I also thought he acted really well. There were some elements to his character that changed that I talked about in the first impressions that are more into spoilers, so I will continue to discuss that part that I thought was wrong with the character more so in that because it's kind of a spoiler. I mean, I don't even know if it is or not, but I'm just going to try and respect those who don't want to know, or especially if you've seen the anime and come into this, you might not know. So, but he also lost like a lot of grit. He was always like steadfast and just like very tenacious and everything. And this was kind of more like comic relief. And in the animated series, they all kind of have comic relief situations and stuff. But this, I feel like he was kind of pigeonholed a little bit more into that. And he was like supposed to be like, was it the black dog or something that once he bites, he doesn't let go, like this, like just tenacity that he was just badass, right? And I feel like they milked that out of him a little bit and put that into Faye's character, where she was more in your face. I'm a badass, and whatever. So I feel like that was like something that was like a transition, and then he just got, I guess, like I mentioned in my first impression, Spike being a little more, although it was like the whole entire group being kind of more touchy-feely, just open with emotions and open just like seemingly to care more. And like I mentioned it like weird when they like he would like touch Jet and like hold his arm, like very caring and very like whatever and concerned and whatever, and like that kind of stuff didn't really exist so much in the anime. There was camaraderie and stuff, but they were like a family, but they were like a dysfunctional family and what have you. So yeah. So that's a big thing of stuff that I didn't like. It was almost like if there was an element that they could change, like it was almost for the sake of just to do it. Like they were like, we have to make this different. Because here's the thing, like I guess I wanted to mention this before, but like this is like strictly a reimagining of the anime series. It is not like how I had it advertised to or described to me as being a expanding upon the lore. And I know there's an article or two that I read like that, and that's what the title was. That is lie. Unless maybe I have a misconception, but building onto lore would mean that you have this original source material that exists, and then you add to it. You don't change it and warp it and like mutate it into something completely different. And you then, it would be more like, and this is how I felt like they should have handled the series, they could have done something controversial, like take place after the anime ended, and that would have been super controversial, but they could have maybe done it right. Or something before, like a prequel of sorts. I know you might not have had Faye or whatever other characters in there, but that was an option they could do. Or they could have worked through all of it. But also what I was kind of hoping was, after hearing that it was going to be like what took place in between episodes, with some episodes maybe being highlighted because they were actually in like the opening sequence and stuff, and trailers, like the characters you knew there for certain episodes, and it was like, oh, okay, well, is this just done to kind of honor that, but the series is not going to touch on that because they, and what I had learned, had not really expressed fully that it was a reimagining, but that it was like filling in and doing more of like creating new lore. But they could have done stuff in between what the episodes were, and maybe glean them in a little bit and told stories that happen, because there's plenty of room because like there's like a storyline in the anime, but it's all like split. It's kind of like some procedures. So I always thought in my mind it was like X-Files. It's like you have like Monster of the Week episodes, but then you have like that back end storyline that's kind of going in the background, and then you have like the conspiracy episodes. Those ones always like hype me up because it's like I love those ones. And so that's kind of like what the anime is. You'll have these episodes that are kind of just light and all different in their own way, different styles sometimes, music, whatever. And then you'll have this episode, it's like, this is like the, not necessarily conspiracy, but the liken to it. Like, this is the vicious one or whatever, where that the past storylines and stuff kind of start merging and like blending into with the current time, and like creating that struggle. And I thought the storylines were great, but they could have done something similar to that, because there are a lot of episodes they could have just made up entirely new episodes that took place in between the sessions of the anime, and that would have been expanding upon the lore, as long as they didn't make any other character changes. And that's the other thing that I have an issue with, is this is going to come up in my in my what do you call it, Wheel of Time, probably, because it just came up, but like where you can have where you try to adapt something faithfully, take this and just recreate it. I get in my mind, I think of Watchmen and stuff, because a lot of those scenes were scenes, and I loved that movie. A lot of people didn't. I liked it, but they took moments and took actual scenes and were scene for scene, and dialogue and everything. Or you can have the inspired by the animated series of Cowboy Bebop, and this is what we came up with. But in doing so, a lot of times, and that's the route that it goes, because it's reimagining, so it's more of an inspired by, but it's not adding to anything, it's just warping it and changing it, but almost to the point where it could have been just something else, because the characters are not, like, if one thing, well, this is the toss-up, because the anime has such a style to it that you want to kind of keep that for the series as well, for the Netflix series. So it's kind of like a, I don't know what you do there, because the other element I feel is just the character, the essence and spirit of the characters. As long as you keep those intact, have the like storyline and arc of them being fully realized as in the anime, but different, it would have worked out way better, I feel. But in this, you have them mimicking the style and the coolness and the music and the editing and stuff and settings and stuff of the anime, but a lot of the characters, they just decided to like swap or change what I feel is the essence or spirit of said characters. And so I just feel like it just doesn't mesh. And if you want to keep the fans happy, you want to at least keep the characters. They can do different stuff, they can whatever, but have their essence kind of like be the same, and just the characters how they were in the anime, because I don't know why you would change that, I guess. But that's just me. And again, this is coming from the lens of someone who loves the anime. And it's going to be hard to it's hard to try to think about, like, if I don't know what the anime or didn't exist, how would I feel about it? So, and I guess this is where I will first give the rating that I feel, if I had no idea of what Cowboy Bebop was, even without that, I don't think that it was strong enough to stand completely on its own. I thought the storylines were weak, the stuff that they came up with. Even the stuff that they warped and changed, while some of it was okay, some of it was good. Like the Mad Pro or whatever, like, I thought that was a really good episode. That is a lot of it taken from the anime though. But that character, that actor playing that character, and the portrayal of that character was really well done. There was some weird, like, odd changes. Again, was like, I don't even know. I don't want to spoil. It's not a spoil. I don't know what it is, but either way, it's just they changed some stuff in there character wise, but most of it by and large was really well done, and uh, I thought matched a lot of what the anime had. So, but yeah, um, but otherwise, I felt like there was like more kind of like cheap tricks, cheap twists, like trying to fake you out, red herring stuff that just didn't make sense, nonsensical. They used like, man, one element that they used a lot, or mechanic or whatever technique, was like holograms. Holograms are used all the time, and not even like I don't even know how they worked. Like some were used for comic relief, some were for other stuff. Like it was just they were used a lot, and it didn't really explain how exactly they were used and whatever. And I don't know. So either way, I didn't feel like the series itself, just with the story, would I just don't think it would do, because it draws so much from the anime to help hold up what they kind of created for their own storyline and changing, that if this anime wasn't there for them to pull upon, I think it would have crumbled. And it's kind of like a Game of Thrones. I always joke like, did they have like Game of Thrones later season writers like working on this project? Because that's like what I feel. It's like what they when they took stuff from the actual anime, it felt pretty decent in terms of like settings and some of the story in those elements. But when the other stuff, not including the perversion of like the characters and how they were just a little different, but the story elements were not strong to where if they did not have that anime like as a base foundation to like pull from and like basically Frankenstein, like I think it would have been even worse. And so and on that topic, it's was announced that it was canceled, and I feel like that's a good thing. They announced it was canceled, and I guess I haven't verified if that was true or not, but it's been multiple postings, so in articles. But I feel like for especially the fan base, it's probably a really good thing. But but I don't know if they knew where they were going to be going after the fact. To be honest, because I don't feel like they had a very strong storyline with their own creation that they had made, whoever was writing this and the scripts and whatever, to really continue on very well. And I just think it would have went really downhill. There were some more anime episodes that could have pulled back into it and that were not used, and things were kind of hinted about maybe even like the movie elements coming into it, and that could have been maybe something pretty decent. I don't know, but I can't really spoil anything for how the series did end. But unfortunately, if you haven't seen this and you're not a fan of the anime or haven't seen the anime, you are going to be left with like cliffhangers or like stuff unresolved, loose threads, because the series was canceled. So, but if you were to see it and had no idea about the anime, I guess I feel like it would be an Oh My Nuts rating of 7. The But that's because I know the anime. Like, if you don't know the anime, you might be totally turned off by the style and the setting and art design and like all that stuff. But I feel like there's still that strong foundation pulling from other stuff, and even if you're unaware, you'll care even less than like myself with the changes that they did make and what I call perversions and whatever. But yeah, so I think 7.0 will be a very viable score for somebody who's not familiar and coming into it and willing to give it a chance if you can get through the style and the music. Because the odd thing was there was some times when the music, as much as I love it, didn't seem to really mesh well with the live action. So that's another factor where it's like a great thing, but didn't always pan out, at least to me. So, and then otherwise, my own personal Oh My Nuts rating for somebody that loves the anime and came into this trying to be hopeful about it. I almost went 6, but I'm honestly going to do a straight, flat, middle of the road 5.0. It's the lowest rating I've ever given anything, though I haven't done a lot of movie or series reviews, which I hope to do more of. But and that is strongly on the basis of that foundation of what they did use from the anime. And when they had those elements in there, a lot of it still worked. Even when they gender swapped or race swapped or whatever, it still worked in the episode. I just don't know why they did it. It's like they did it just to do it because they could, I guess. I don't know. But otherwise, yeah, the music, the styling, the action was still good. There wasn't a lot of. I was disappointed there wasn't a lot of space, like battles or more with that. But that might have been a budget thing. But you're doing a space western, so if you can't do that, then maybe it shouldn't be even on the docket, I guess. But I don't know. So anyhow, that is my Oh My Nuts rating for Cowboy Bebop, the Netflix series, and I've honestly had been excited about this years ago. Keanu Reeves was supposed to be starring, as he was really passionate supposedly about it and wanted to get it made, and he was going to be Spike Spiegel and what have you. But yeah, never came to fruition. And then we got this, and who knows? The same with Leonardo DiCaprio. He's, I guess, really passionate about Akira, and I'm just like deathly afraid of whatever might happen with Akira because that comes up in again about being made. So anyhow, I'm gonna get to a spoiler section, so let me know if you've got to this point what you thought of this series, and if you're gonna do spoilers, mark them down below. But also, if you haven't seen the series or whatnot, I don't know. Obviously I kind of disparaged it quite a bit. But I would encourage you to, if you're curious about it, check it out. Netflix made the decision to put the animated series on their service, and I thought that was kind of odd. Like, you would think, oh, that's smart because then they can watch this and then get hyped for this show. But in my opinion, that would work in the exact opposite. If I had nothing and I just watched the anime and I dug the anime and then came to this, I'd be like, what the F? And yeah, I'd be where I'm at right now, maybe just not as quite passionate about it, obviously. If I had only just seen it for that first time and then came into this, who knows. But if you have not seen the anime and would be interested in giving that a shot, I would highly recommend checking out the animated series. And I'm actually really curious down below if you've watched this and have seen the animated series and you like this more. I have one friend who likes this more than the animated series, which I thought was interesting, and I have other friends who are like, I like the animated series, but I also like this. This is okay. It's not bad, and it has potential or whatever. So, and so yeah, I'm just kind of curious if you've seen it down below, and let me know down below if you actually like the live action more than the animated. So, yeah. And now I'm gonna get into the spoilers. So I don't know, I've done a lot of ranting over the past few days. This is already getting long. It's like almost 30 minutes, so I apologize. But if you're not wanting to see spoilers and want to avoid that, turn away now. If you're still around, I don't know, I'm probably talking to myself at this point. But anyhow, yeah, I don't know, I think they just effed up so much here in the series. But just going on the basis if I hadn't seen the animated series, just the storyline alone just didn't make sense to me. It just didn't make sense. They had stuff in there. The hologram thing really pissed me off because they were using a lot, not like the other things, but they did it for like the cheap fake outs and stuff. And they had some of those woke moments where it was like, I kind of avoided this a little bit, but there was like woke moments with Faye and her love interest, and it was just like put in there just for the sake of putting it in there, just so this character could open up and like supposedly like, talk about themselves a bit to this person in this intimate moment and stuff, where in generally, like, I just feel like there was too much sharing touchy-feely for a group of like bounty hunters that were kind of like their own space and wanting to be alone, but not. Like, they wanted that camaraderie, and that's why they stayed where they were and put up with each other. And I forgot to mention the banter was really good for the most part between all the characters, but it's just overall they just seemed warped and perverted from their source material. And so there was some woke moments like that, and then obviously, like, I guess I don't know if it's considered a woke thing, but Julia's whole reversal at the end of the series, like her being like this kind of timid, weak, I would say, timid, scared character through most of it because of Vicious, which is another thing was like episode 2, we're told, oh, Julia's happily married and whatever, and then like boom, next thing we know, she's got a gun to her head and Vicious is about to kill her or whatever, and they act as though that was the first time when he choked her out, and like that was the first time that had ever happened. Otherwise, the rest of the time, like they were like happy family kind of thing, like just in love, and there was none of these issues. But that wouldn't make sense with the character, especially with Vicious and how they made him. That was like the first time he snapped on her. But maybe it was, whatever. But you had this whole like timid thing, and you could see some scheming of like going from like trying to take out the elders to trying to take out Vicious, like kind of a thing. But that was like always implied, like to get out and to be free. But then it was like, haha, no, I was actually plotting all along to take over. And then that whole, oh my god, the last episode, that was like the worst fucking atrocious tragedy to the series, because it took, I think it was the Ballad of Fallen Angels, like I might be getting the name wrong, but that episode, and just effed it up, just warped it, and just, I don't know if they even knew what they were going to do, because I can't even in my head imagine what they thought they were going to be doing. But anyways, yeah, there was just story elements that just didn't make sense, and just stuff that were shown to the audience to kind of make us think one thing, but then just to intentionally subvert our expectations, even if it's in a way that didn't make sense. Like her suddenly wanting to run everything, and her being like, oh, the elders don't show their face, I will be a proxy, and and how did you even get in my basement? Did I call Anna and Gren? I don't even know, because the people didn't follow her. She didn't have her own henchmen, she didn't have her own fucking like group. Like, so maybe them? Like, maybe, because that's the only thing I could think of. But they just conveniently like, who cares? Like, it's like they just had stuff happen just to move along whatever odd plot story they had going. Then there was a Jet thing with the father thing, which I didn't want to bring up earlier, just in case it's a spoiler. And him being a father, I felt like ruined things too. Like, he was a father figure in the main anime, but it just kind of came to this whole, like, I mentioned in my first impressions, I was worried that Kimmy would be who Ed was. Like, suddenly you're going to find out she had like super tech skills and all this stuff, and she was going to be Ed. Or that she was going to be used as collateral damage and like hostage, and for like and that one came to be. And I'm not gonna lie, when Ein came in and they decided to use that and say that was like to replace the doll, because that's the other thing. Then Kimmy being involved had like all these like arbitrary, like random, like storylines that had to be involved, because you had to keep that element in there. Like, he had to try to keep in touch with the daughter and all this stuff. So like when she got the dog, or he brought the dog to her, I was super like, I was like, she's like, is that that seals the deal, she said. But then couldn't keep the dog, thank god. Ian left. But she was used as a hostage later on. But that whole storyline didn't make sense. The stuff just didn't mesh with me. It was like, how long had it been since he saw his daughter? I think they said it was like 5 years. I don't remember if they said how old she was. But, how old was she since she had been gone? And then, like, when he brings the puppy, he's just in the house. And she's just like, hi. Like, no, like, hey, it's daddy. Or who the hell are you? Like, did she even know who he is? Like, how much did he keep in touch with her? That stuff was never, like, explained. But I thought, like, he was still with his wife or girlfriend or whatever at that time, who was established. But then it ended up like okay, so he just came in, but he still lived there. No, the other cop lived there, and they were a couple. So like, he just comes into the house, and I was just like, what the hell? Like, it just didn't even make sense. It was like, again, just things that they did, but they could have done that better. He could have rang the doorbell, she could have answered the door, she could have let him in, and like, whatever. It's just, I don't even understand the decisions in writing that they come up with for their ideas of how to like portray this stuff. And so, yeah, and then obviously at the end, it was like, oh, well, obviously they found out about Jet somehow. That was just gleaned over, just, okay, we found out about Jet, Vicious and stuff, and then we just, obviously anybody could walk in their house, because why not? Because Jet did, so anybody can. So there's probably not even any struggle. They just probably came in and grabbed her, because that's what they can do, I guess. So, I don't know. But they just gloss over that, and it's like, okay, and so now you have this whole, like, supposedly repaired thing with the family, but then destroyed because of the kidnapping and the stuff, the strife that was, inflicted and then, transferred to him and Spike's thing because of how it affected him towards the end of the anime or show. But, it's just stuff that it didn't make sense to me. And there was a lot of that, the holograms. As for some of the other woke stuff, I think there was like anti-woke stuff, like because the character of Hakim could have been played by a black actor if they would followed more in the anime. Instead, they did this weird thing where it was like holograms or some body, or maybe it was just a face thing. And even those things, it was just like, how do those things work? They didn't really have to explain it. Even like Jet's thing was like, I guess it was a hologram where he could see the program and interact, but they didn't show it in that way. They just showed it while he was there, and vice versa, him on the thing, and the other people being like, what's he doing? And then him being, it was like comic relief crap. And it was like, okay, well, it just made him like softer and just not himself, not his character from the anime. But like with Hakim, they instead decided like, okay, it's a black guy using this, and so he's white, so it's predominantly played by a white actor. And I was like, okay, well, that's kind of anti-woke, I feel. But either way, when it comes to that like hologram technology or whatever, it was hinted that his was kind of like damaged or weak, or I don't remember what it was. But when this like lady at the gas station was looking at him, and then it started flickering, or it didn't even flicker, I don't think. That was the thing. It like didn't do it, and she's like, your face, what's wrong? But there was like nothing shown. Then in like the club or whatever, you have the prostitutes who are using it to project themselves as young and sexy, but then like Spike walks by and the one phases out and it's an old lady, and the John going with her, he's like, oh, he's in for a surprise kind of thing. And I was like, at first I was like, are they just kind of showing us like for our sake that this was something that was going on, this hologram and whatever? But I was like, well, no, because Spike actually saw it. But then in the thing, in the story, it wouldn't make sense, because like, was that the first time it ever glitched? Was that one time he happened to go by, or does it glitch all the time? The guy walking with this woman, he didn't notice it at all? Like, whoa, wait a second, you're a little wrinkly for me, or whatever the fuck. Like, it was just like, what? Like, it just doesn't even make sense. And then you get to the point where one of the big twists at the end, and well, towards the end, where Vicious is swap places with another partner in crime or whatever. They had their plot to take over and kill the elders. And so you have the thought that, okay, well, I was like, because a friend had told me, like, just wait till you get to the end, it'll blow your mind. I didn't know that he meant like the very last episode kind of thing. I thought they actually maybe would have, like, if they killed Vicious. And I was like, what? I was like, no way, that'd be screwed. And then they did it, and then the head rolls and whatever, and then it, like, does the whole glitch thing, and it's the other guy, and it's like, and then the other thing glitches, and it's Vicious, and he's not chained up and doing their whole ploy and plot. So what it was like, would it not have, like, as soon as it was cut, the head, would it not have changed, whatever? There's elements that are done in the story just for the sake of the story, even if within the story it doesn't make sense, but for the audience they need. And I just think it's very weak. And the hologram, when they try to get Kimmy rescued, Jet and Spike and all this stuff, oh, there's a hologram, the other guys were there, but they're just a hologram, haha. Like, it's just like little cop-out stupid things like that I just felt it was super weak. So yeah, I am ranting. It's almost on 40 minutes, but I want to say that those are probably some of the major things. I just felt that there was a lack of actual world building beyond like cheap tricks, basically. And I do not think they knew where they were going when Ed showed up. I partially wonder if they only put Ed at the very end because there was an outcry of like, where the hell's Ed, throughout this whole production, and being not shown in the trailers or anything. Because you could have shown her in the trailer. But they promised, or said, I don't know if they promised, that she'd be in it and it would be a unique and whatever. And they do mention Radical Edward in a certain point in one of the episodes, but if you haven't watched the anime, that means nothing to you. You wouldn't even know what they're talking about. And you wouldn't at the end, because I don't think that was given away either. So if you're not familiar with the anime or whatever, that means nothing to you. So, but her being at the end and then hinting about the villain or antagonist from Knocking on Heaven's Door, the Cowboy Bebop movie, I guess, was there. And so maybe they could have taken that, but I honestly don't know if they had any idea what they were going to do from there going forward. And I, for one, am thankful that it was canceled. It sucks for those who got into it and maybe enjoy it. I feel like if they enjoy it, and if you enjoy it, more power to you, great. But it then sucks because it is canceled. And to me, I'm thankful. It sucks for you and those who enjoy it, but I just think it's for the best. So I feel like there's many ways that could have went around this to bring this anime to live action that would have done more justice and honored the anime more. I know they did the music and the style a lot of times, but just everything else they changed just for the sake of changing it. And if you're going to create your own alternate version of this, at least have good, solid storylines. Nothing super deep or like crazy. Like it wasn't like, oh my god, Cowboy Bebop anime series has like the most amazing story and blah blah. No, a lot of them are just one-offs and just bounties and stories, and then you have that background, like continual story that goes along with Vicious and stuff. And that was the one big thing. Like I forgot to bring it up, but anyway, with Spike, whenever in the anime, if you mention Vicious, he would snap. That's how visceral the hatred he has for Vicious. And that's just not any live action at all. In fact, it's almost, again, a complete opposite perversion of it. Like, maybe I should forgive him. And, it's like, what? Like, no, like, when he hears a Vicious, I wanted to see him go over the edge and just, react. Because it was just an emotional reaction, just raw hatred. But that's all out too. And it's like, so people who say that, I guess I just really strongly disagree with people who say he or the other characters were identical to what they were in the animated series. Because I just disagree. So anyhow, I know I can ramble on and on. So I'm going to stop. I did bring some notes, but I think I went over everything anyway. I appreciate you going through and listening to this whole video if you made it this far. I got to get better at cutting these at least by half, like 20 minutes maybe. I was hoping 15, but I knew once I got on it I was going to meander everywhere. But this is also because this is a IP that is very, like I said, passionate. I'm passionate about it. I myself have had thoughts of like storylines taking place after the anime. And that was like, and before the anime. So, just in case people haven't seen the anime and you've watched through this, I won't spoil stuff there. So, but anyhow, Again, I'll leave some links down below for the first impressions. Though you probably don't care about that if you've gotten to this point and you've done the whole season now. And watch out for if you do like Wheel of Time, Hawkeye. I'm hoping to do first impressions and then a season review of those. Those should be a lot shorter. Wheel of Time is iffy, but yeah. So, and again, I have the 100 sub giveaway idea video linked down below if you want to check that out and give some ideas of what might be good for giveaways for mixed content and how to kind of go about that. So, all right. I think that is everything. I know I forgot some stuff, but this is what it is. So, I appreciate you stopping by and checking out the video. Until next time, take care.